the fight.
Good morning. Welcome to a Friday edition of From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar here with Trent Finnegan. And honestly, Trent, it feels a little backwards to say good morning because I'm not having a good morning. I'm feeling pretty sad watching the Chargers win, watching the Avs lose again in overtime in a shootout, and then watching what happened to the Nuggets. And we'll definitely be talking about that Nuggets game later in the show. But why don't we talk about some good things coming up? And obviously, what's really exciting this weekend is a huge high octane offense going up against the best defense in the league between the Cowboys and the Broncos. A big matchup coming up. I am so excited. Just before we get into it, what are we looking at here? Where can the Broncos look to succeed? I know that their defense has to be great, but what is their offense going to have to do against a terrible Cowboys defense?
I think they got to come out the gates flying. You know, we've seen some of these games where they're a little slow to start and they're throwing a lot of screens and they're getting Bo Nix into it. You got to go. You got to go tempo. You got to put your foot on the gas, because if you don't put your foot on the gas, Dak Prescott's going to go do it on the other side of the ball and he's going to run away from you. So I think that that's going to be the big thing, is how fast can this offense start, because they have probably their toughest test of the season on the defensive side of the ball with Prescott, with this Cowboys offense. So it's all about jumping ahead, try and get as many points as you can early on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Starting fast is definitely a must for the Broncos to win this game. But not only starting fast, just start consistent. Start and finish the same way you did. You get out there, at least get across the midfield mark. Get into the opposing enemy territory. Get into that area and continue to be able to do that throughout the game. And going up against a terrible defense like the Cowboys have, I mean, we see them winning games. Like the Cowboys have won a good amount of games this season, but it's come in terms of 45-40 wins. It's not, or 48-45. Like, it's not like they're beating teams 21-10. They're having to put up a large amount of numbers on their offensive side to just combat the fact that their defense is terrible. So this is a good chance for the Broncos, similar to the Bengals. Get out there and make the most of going up against one of the worst defenses in the league. This will be a great game for Bo Nix to get back in the flow. But of course, I said that same exact thing when they were going up against the Jets. And sure, it was in London. Crazy things happen overseas. It feels different when you're overseas. This does not feel different. This feels like a game where the Broncos offense should be looking more consistent, more concise, and better overall than they have in the past couple weeks.
Oh, 100%. Like last week, that Giants game was weird because they didn't opt to take the bye week after London, which is still probably going to be one of the most confusing decisions in the NFL this season.
Strange.
Especially for a team west of the Mississippi. You take the bye after the London game, and Payton wanted to carry the momentum, and it should have cost them. Let's be honest, it should have cost them. They looked terrible for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But now you have a full normal week at home, no travel. You got your facilities, you got your practice field, you got everybody in the building. They're looking a lot healthier. Injury report looks very good this week. So it's after a couple weeks of chaos, they finally have a sense of calmness and a sense of consistency in that practice facility, in that locker room. And I think that that's going to provide a big boost as well, just having them be mentally prepared heading into Sunday's game before the ball's even snapped.
100%. 100%. And a good matchup to watch here. Of course, football's a game of matchups. We see on the defensive end a specific player get targeted a lot. Not Pat Surtain, but on the other side, Riley Moss has been getting targeted many times throughout the season because that Pat Surtain is the best cornerback in the league. They're going to go after the second best option on the defense. So that can work for the Broncos in games where the secondary receiver, the second receiver isn't that great. This is not one of those cases. George Pickens, who is the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys, has kind of been on a tear this season. He's found a revival in his career with Dak Prescott, and that is going to be the matchup to watch. Can the Broncos hold that back? I think yes. What do you think?
I think they can. And, George Pickens is probably one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL. For me, as a football enjoyer, I'm happy that he finally has a quarterback to throw in the ball, because he was getting weight. He was super fun to watch in college. comes to Pittsburgh, doesn't have a quarterback, and he looks like his career's on a downward spiral. And now he gets Dak and CeeDee next to him. So from a football fan perspective, I think it's awesome. But from a Broncos perspective, it's easy to go out there and make fun of Riley Moss. It's easy to be like, oh, look at this bum. T. Higgins has 100 and something yards on him. Look at all these DPIs he's committing. That's the easy way to do it. But like we're saying, he's got the hardest job in the NFL, opposite of Pat Surtain. He gets so many targets coming his way. And you know how he responds to that? Riley Moss has allowed the lowest completion percentage of any defensive back in the NFL this season.
Yeah, he's having a great season.
And yes, sometimes those 50-50 balls don't go his way. Sometimes he's playing great defense, and the opposing quarterback literally just drops it in the bucket in the absolute perfect spot. And you know what they say? Great offense. I think great offense always beats great defense.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Right spot. There's literally nothing that the defense can do. So I think that Moss has been solid. And yes, there's penalties to clean up. Yes, there's certain things to clean up. But no other cornerback has the workload that he has because of the guy opposite of him. And I think that he's been holding his own. Back in training camp, he said he was ready for the challenge. It seems like he's been up to it so far. And even Vance Joseph acknowledged yesterday, he's like, yes, there is stuff to clean up, but we know what we're getting out of him and we like what we have in him.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole quote from Vance Joseph said, quote, I think he has the hardest job on our defense weekly. Obviously, Pat Surtain is a great player. He is the number one corner in football. So most of the concepts and most of the schemes for offense, it's going towards Riley. He's competitive. He's not going to back off. It doesn't matter how the game's going. If he gets a penalty or two, he's going to compete and do his job, and that makes Riley special. The penalties, we have to correct them. So basically, what VJ is saying there is, doesn't matter. Whatever you throw at Riley, he's going to be able to fight. He's going to be able to succeed on the defensive end as long as he's not shooting himself in the foot. The penalties have been one thing that we talked about endlessly this season, how they're holding the Broncos back from succeeding, and they've been a real issue. But those penalties mean a little bit less even if you're committing them. You can still get out there and get a stop with Riley Moss and Pat Surtain on each end of the field, both playing at the highest level. And that's just the cornerback room. That's just the secondary. That's literally just the corners. We haven't even talked about Talanoa Hufanga or Dre Greenlaw, who's not going to be playing this season, but again, came over with Talanoa Hufanga, or not this season. Sorry, I'm getting off on one, but we know what happened to Dre Greenlaw. And then Nick Bonito, all of these guys making a real big impact on the defensive end. So we're just looking at Riley Moss, what he's going to be able to do against George Pickens. That should be a great matchup. Riley Moss looks like he should be able to succeed. I mean, yeah, T. Higgins had a great game against him, but a couple times, last season specifically. But what we're going to see here should be much different. I believe that Riley can stop him, but that's just on the defensive end. On the offensive end, we talked about it, consistency, getting Bo started early. This should be one of those games, again, where Bo is out there and having a good, solid completion percentage game. We want to see him higher in the completion percentage. He doesn't need to be throwing those moon balls. We saw a couple of them, again, miss last week, but that's just a problem that he's been facing all week. Get him some easier completions that aren't check downs. That's what I believe. I mean, some slant routes, something like that, easy in and outs, a post corner. We don't need to see it flies every single play. That's just where my head's on that. I don't know if Bo Nix really is going to do anything too much better than he has in the past couple of weeks, but it can be one of those games where he feels a bit more comfortable and you see that he can calm himself down and find easier completions rather than feeling the need to throw it downfield every time. And that's just where my head's at for this week.
Yeah, and I think, you talk about Bo Nix. Bo Nix has the fourth most passing attempts in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth most, which, given how good this run game's been, how solid it's been, J.K. Dobbins has been great. They're averaging, I think, a little over 130 yards per game on the ground. Why is Bo Nix fourth in the NFL in pass attempts? And here's the kicker. His completion percentage, 62.5%, is all the way down at 24 in the league. So he has the fourth most pass attempts, and he has the 24th highest completion percentage. And yet you have this run game that's one of the best attacks in the entire league. And J.K. Dobbins, why did he only get 14 carries last week? So I agree with you that hey, maybe we need to get Nick some better intermediate throws. I think that we need to get J.K. Dobbins the football more
Yeah.
because it's clearly been working. And I know maybe R.J. Harvey's still a little young. He hasn't totally been what you want out of him so far in the
Could have
run
seen
game.
that one coming. Could have seen that coming. In fact, I did see it coming. I called
But
it.
the Broncos are 6th in the NFL, 131.9 yards per game on the ground.
Yeah.
So
They're
there's
great on the ground.
They have the blueprint, like great defense, solid run game. And yet Sean Payton, I don't know if he has an agenda to fill and say, Bo Nix is my guy. I need to get him the stats. Why does Bo Nix have the 4th most attempts when you're running the ball like this? So, again, like I said, I agree with you. Maybe get him some easier looks instead of just chucking the ball as far as you can a couple times a game. But I think that they need to lean a lot more into this run game. And that could even be with Nix. They showed it last week. If you
It was
run the ball with
successful
Nix,
last week.
you get an extra player in the pattern, whether he's used as a decoy like he was on Nix's touchdown, or whether he's a blocker leading ahead for Nix. So I just think if they can lean more into the run game, then this offense really can hit the next level.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny to be having that conversation compared to last year where the run game was abysmal and just terrible and sad to watch. It made me sick every time I saw Bo Nix hand the ball off. But this year it's completely different. Give the ball to JK, not RJ. Give the ball to JK and then run it sometimes with Bo Nix. I feel like that's a great 1-2 punch. But staying on the run game, we got to talk about the other side of the spectrum, the Cowboys run game, because they have the 2nd leading rusher in the league by yards. And guess who it is? Our old friend Javonte Williams is 2nd in the entire league in rushing the ball. Incredible turnaround. First of all, huge fan. I'm happy. I could not be happier to see Javonte Williams out there balling, but that's going to be a problem for the Broncos. And he did say in a comment something along the lines of how their split was mutual and that there's no bad blood. And I love that because there really shouldn't be. But this, you can say that as much as you want as a player. There's got to be a feeling when you get out on the field against your former team and you're 2nd in leading rushing and they, decided it was time to move on from you. You want to get your get back a little bit. And I expect a little bit of that to happen this week.
Oh, 100%. And the way that his career went in Denver was weird. And it was probably a little sad to see for some people because that great rookie year. And I'll never forget that Ravens game when he's literally carrying 27 people on his back.
Yeah.
Shrugging into the end zone.
Insane. And
then obviously his knee that was one of the worst knee injuries I can remember seeing. And then, it takes time. And he got his opportunities in 23, but your first year off a knee injury, it's not really the same. You got to give it a couple years. And then last year was part of a committee, but he was still only averaging 3.6 yards per carry. But now this guy, he's averaging 5.3. He had a big 66-yard scamper. He's breaking these big ones off again. And I think it's awesome to see. And, Cortland Sutton spoke on it Wednesday. Pat Surtain spoke on it Wednesday. Vance Joseph, Sean Payton, they all had good things to say about him. This is a guy who was really loved in this locker room. And I think whether there was bad blood behind the scenes or weird talks behind the scenes that we're never going to find out, I think that the change of scenery was good for Javonte. And
clearly.
I think it's awesome that he's 2nd in the league in rushing right now.
Yeah.
But this is a big test for the Broncos because it's all hey, Dak Prescott playing like the MVP, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson. Oh, hey, and then here's Javonte Williams too, who is dominating on the ground game. So the Broncos are really going to have their hands full everywhere on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, 100%. The last time the Broncos played a player in the top 5 in rushing was back against the Colts, and that's Jonathan Taylor, who's now number 1 in rushing yards. So clearly that guy, great. Broncos lost to the Colts. Hopefully that's just the number 1 rusher and it doesn't go down to the top 5. When you're playing a top 5 rusher in the league, the Broncos lose. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but Javonte's having a great season. And hopefully it doesn't continue on Sunday, but right after that, it goes back to being a great season. The Broncos will need to stop that, though, of course, along with Dak Prescott. They've got a great offense. You look all around, CeeDee Lamb's amazing. George Pickens is amazing. Dak's having an MVP season. Javonte Williams, probably one of the best, comebacks in recent history, coming back off of a terrible knee injury, 2 bad seasons, and then now doing this has been great to see. They're going to be a tough matchup, but it's going to be best defense in the league versus one of the best offenses in the league against inconsistent offense versus really terrible defense. Who ends up winning that? I've got the Broncos. I've got the Broncos in a tight battle, and I think that it'll end up being more defensively focused than people think. Maybe closer to a 17-14 game, maybe a 21-17 game. Broncos win. What do you think, Trent?
Okay, that's interesting. I'm totally flipped from you. I have 34-31 Broncos.
Oh, wow.
I have it going high scoring. But I like what you said. It's like one side of the football is unstoppable force versus immovable object, and then the other side of the football is stoppable force versus movable object.
Yeah.
It's like the total opposite ends of the spectrum. But
yeah,
I mean, I love this Broncos defense. I just think that the Cowboys offense is too talented. And then I think that the Cowboys defense, is the complete opposite. And I think that the Broncos are going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. Give me 34-31 Denver. Not going to cover that 3.5 that they're getting, but still come out with the victory.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we're pretty far off. I made the mistake last year of also saying that the Bills and Broncos game in the playoffs was going to be a low scoring game, and that did not end up turning out that way. So I could be very wrong, but that's just where I'm thinking, you got great defense and an inconsistent offense. I don't know how much more points you can put up when it comes like that, but maybe Bo Nix, this is his time to shine. I hope so. I really hope so. But let's move on to another football game that we could talk about this weekend. We have the CU Buffs back in action tomorrow against Utah. It's been a wild season for the Buffs, and it honestly felt a little good to not have to talk about them for like a week and a half because they've been kind of sad to watch at some points, and they're coming off of a big win against 22nd ranked ISU. Great win. Bought Caden Salter some time. That was a conversation I was having with Richie Carney last week when he was filling in on the show. Bought him some time, but are we expecting much more fireworks throughout the rest of the season? I think no. I think that this is going to be one of those games that feels close for maybe 2 quarters, maybe the first half, and then it slips away from the Buffs really, really quick.
Oh, that's just like the TCU game. I agree with you 100%. They're in it, but maybe, hey, they shoot themselves in the foot here, and maybe, this penalty kills this drive here.
Throw a couple picks.
Exactly. So I think the big thing is that Utah's quarterback, Devin Dampier, is listed as questionable. He's a very talented runner. They cater their offensive scheme around him. It's like, for people who haven't watched Utah, it's weird. It's not like a normal like drop back pass. There's a lot of motions, east west, kind of creative run designs, short passes, extending the run game. So, but even if he's out, their true freshman quarterback plays similar from what I've seen in limited action, and I don't think that that's going to change much. Neither head coach said that that's going to change much depending on who plays. So, CU. Like we're saying, it's been a tough season. They need 3 more wins to get a bowl game, but playing at Utah, remember, this is still kind of a rivalry game, Rumble and the Rockies. At Utah is a very tough place to play. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done. I think Utah comes out 28-17 in this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a closer score than I think it'll be. I mean, right now they're 13-point underdogs. That's insane. I can't remember the last time the Buffs have been 13-point underdogs in the Coach Prime era. Has that ever happened? There's got to be a stat out there that says something along the lines of what each one was, but I don't know if that's ever happened. And it feels like that might be the right line that Vegas has set. I believe it'll be closer to something like 35 to maybe 17, maybe something like that. It just feels like this isn't going to be the game for the Buffs to prove anything other than what they've proven all season, which is that they can't really do much this year. And it'll be another reason for people to start chanting Juju's name. But as of now, there's not much to look forward to with this team. And it sucks. It really sucks. Coming off of what they had last season, of course, your best players on offense specifically all got drafted. I mean, the whole wide receiver room basically went to the NFL. And then, of course, Shedeur Sanders is now rotting on the bench in a terrible place like Cleveland, poor guy. But there's not much to look forward to with this Buff season. I'm being very critical, and I feel like that's fair, but it's sad to see. But it's all right. we can move on to something that's a little bit sadder to talk about, and that's the Nuggets' first game of the season, which ended in a loss, despite the fact that Aaron Gordon had one of the best performances, most incredible games I've ever seen watching the NBA. I mean, and I'm talking about that having watched Nikola Jokic put up a 60-point triple-double, having watched Nikola Jokic put up a 30-20-20 game. This was one of the best performances I've ever watched as a Nuggets fan. And unfortunately, it ended with a loss because Steph Curry is absolutely insane. I went to bed so sad last night, Trent. I could barely fall asleep. How did they lose this game? It felt like it was in control. Basically, I know that the score was closer than it seemed, but it felt like the Nuggets were in control for basically the entire game.
Yeah, and they were. And first off, how nice is it to see a historic Nuggets performance not be Jokic?
Yeah, it's incredible. It felt like I was back in the bubble.
It's very nice because like the last one I can think of is when Jamal had 50 against the Cavs back in 2021.
Yeah.
When he didn't shoot a free throw.
Yes.
But Gordon, this was the most efficient 50-point game of all time.
Insane.
105.8% true shooting percentage, 17 for 21 from the field, 10 for 11 from 3, 6 for 6 from the line. It also had 8 rebounds. I mean, it was – remember, this guy shot like 29% from 3 like 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, they weren't guarding him. They wanted him to shoot the 3 ball.
And now we're here. So, but back to your point, you're right. The Nuggets were in control of this game forever. And I think what killed them was Jokic.
It's insane, but yeah, you're right.
It's insane to say, and I get that he had a triple-double. But here's my thing. First off, Jonas Valanciunas looked very good in 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Why is he playing
my
12 minutes in an overtime game?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you trade for him? You need to give Jokic these breaks. Valanciunas was a +4. He was solid. He had 8 points and 3 rebounds in 12 minutes. He did everything you needed him to.
Yeah.
But for Jokic, I get he had a triple-double. But 2 for 13 from 3, 8 for 23. We've talked about this for 5 years, how when he just chucks threes, it's never the best outcome when he just sits there and chucks threes. This Warriors team is small. You know how many times he had Curry on him in the post on a switch? He's bigger than literally everybody except Al. Even he's bigger than Al Horford. He's old and whatnot. He has the better matchup on everybody. And they weren't guarding him when he'd slip out of those picks with Jamal Murray. The Warriors wouldn't guard him, and that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted him to chuck threes, and it was not great from him. And then that final possession where he misses the last 3, and he puts his head down, he walks up the court, and Steph Curry
just lets Steph drive right past him. Insane.
Really
that was
bad
a
look.
it was a bad look. It was weird to see watching the Nuggets yesterday because I can't say I've ever felt more comfortable ever in my history as a Nuggets fan. I've never felt more comfortable in the secondary unit than the starters. It's always been the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like we've always been like, oh no, the backups are in. Time for, the plus minus to drop to -11. That is not the case yesterday. You look at the stats, every single starter was in the negatives. The closest to being in the positive was, of course, Aaron Gordon, who was -1. Every single bench player was in the positives. Spencer Jones got reasonable, serious
Spencer
minutes.
Jones,
in
my
this
guy,
game.
Spencer Jones.
And I want to talk about that in a little bit. He got some real minutes, but +5. Jonas Valanciunas +4. Tim Hardaway Jr. +5. Bruce Brown +6. Even Payton Watson is at a 0, and he had kind of a whatever game. I'm shocked. I was at a loss for words. I actually turned to my brother while I was watching this game yesterday. I was like, why do I feel so comfortable right now that Nikola Jokic is sitting on the bench? Why am I feeling comfortable?
And that's awesome.
It's awesome.
The starters, and here's the thing, the starters, they were negative. Gordon was great. I thought Jamal Murray was great last night.
Oh, he was great.
25 and 10 assists on 11 for 20 from the field.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what you need from him. And he gave you all you needed. But Cam Johnson wasn't good. We could acknowledge that.
Yep.
But for me, it's only, and this is my whole kind of overarching thought process with this game, is that it's the first game of the season. Steph Curry went nuclear.
Yeah.
It's okay to lose that game on the road. It's fine. I get that there's a historic performance, but And Cam Johnson, like playing with Jokic is weird to start. It is different. It is way different than any other style of basketball that anybody has ever played. And it's going to take time for Cam Johnson to get accustomed to this system.
Yeah.
I know he missed some open looks and he was a minus 17. It was not great. But I'm not going to write him off yet because it's the first game of the season. Now,
No.
where my concern was last night was you just paid Christian Brown $125 million.
Don't get me started on Christian Brown.
He can't guard Curry.
It was terrible.
Haven't been able to guard small guards since KCP left. He was 3 for 7 from the field with 0 for 1 from 3. He was a -9, and he had 5 fouls. Like, you can't. You paid him $125 million and that to be your best guard defender. And I get that it's Curry, but it was like I was out there.
Yeah,
like,
it was bad. It wasn't good.
It was not good, and that's where I had concerns. Because like, dang, I was like really high on this guy. You just gave him this massive extension, which a lot of people called an overpay, and he goes out and he sleepwalks through the first game. So that was tough. But yeah, the bench. I thought the bench was very good. I was so happy to see Spencer Jones get some minutes. I think he was good in that Warriors game last year when everyone was hurt.
Yeah.
And he played like 25 minutes or something.
Yeah, he played well. And you look at his stats, he was kind of having a Tony Snell game, but it was working. Like he was having a good game. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 1 steal, and 1 turnover. So literally like complete 0, like even. You have a steal, you got the ball, and then you have a turnover. Literally nothing. But like,
and he's in the right spots and stuff.
Yeah.
Like and then he's doing stuff that's not going to show up on the box score. And
contested shots, box outs, that kind of stuff that actually really matters.
How much can you do in 6 minutes? Not a whole lot, especially when you're the 10th guy off the bench or the 5th guy off the bench, whatever. But it was fine. Tim Hardaway, 10 points, 4 for 8, 2 for 5 from 3. I think that's what you want. 50% from the field, 40% from 3. I feel like you can't be mad at that from Hardaway.
No, Tim Hardaway was great. I liked his performance a lot. He had a great performance, definitely.
And then Bruce Brown, only 2 for 3.
But it was solid. Like it wasn't bad.
4, 5, 3 assists, and one steal. Like he had 4 fouls, which wasn't great for 19 minutes, but he was doing the Bruce Brown. He was doing everything.
That's Bruce Brown. That's what we got from him in 2023, and that's what we're gonna get from him here. That's great.
Exactly. But here's the theme of all 5 of those guys we just went through, and even Watson. I mean, Watson was fine. Watson was Payton Watson, and the way he played last night was why the Nuggets didn't give him a contract extension, because his development is behind where they thought it would be.
Yeah.
But for the bench, everybody we just talked about are either positives that are like good sights to see or a net 0.
Yeah.
You can't complain about that. You know how many bad benches we've had in the last 10 years?
Oh my gosh. If you would have put this bench on any of the previous 4 years, like with this team, barring the injuries to Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray in 2022, that would be another championship team right there. Like this is a great bench. This is the best bench that the Nuggets have arguably ever had, ever.
Yeah,
but
so it's fine. It's good. It's progress. It's game 1. Now, you know who it wasn't game 1 for was David Adelman, who I thought should have put Bruce Brown in for Christian Brown late. He decided to not adjust on Curry. He took 2 challenges home in his pocket on foul calls late in the 4th quarter that could have switched the momentum of the game with free throws. And it just was not his best, and he had some good games in the playoffs, but then he actually looked like it was game 1 from him. Like you just went from coaching going toe-to-toe with OKC in the playoffs to this.
Yeah.
It was weird. And then like we said, like Valanciunas only gets 12 minutes. Like the bench was fine, but Tim Hardaway was the only bench player with over 20 minutes. Like I thought that you get this bench so you can take Jokic's minutes down. You can take Jamal Murray's minutes down. You can spare these guys for the season. And it was just a couple of puzzling coaching decisions last night.
Yeah, it was strange. And this is like, it's not like the Golden State Warriors are scrubs. This is a hard-fought victory. This is a good team. This is not the end of the world. I would like to say that, come March, we won't be talking about game 1. But honestly, We probably will because of how well Aaron Gordon played. I mean, 50 points. We'll be talking about this for years to come.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon's performance in this game and how it ended up in a loss. And we've seen the same kind of thing happen with Nikola Jokic, 60-point triple-double last season, and they still lose. That's just what kind of happens because the Nuggets don't play like that. They play a consistent type of ball where the rock is spread to every single player on the team. And when you have a singular player pop off, it usually doesn't succeed, at least in the case of the Denver Nuggets. But I wanted to go back a little bit to some of those starters that you were mentioning. You talked about Cam Johnson. Cover up the name on the box score. 5 points, 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Who did I just describe to you?
You probably described Michael Porter Jr.
I just described Michael Porter Jr.
But here's my thing in my eyes. Cam Johnson is making $21 million less than Michael Porter Jr.
That's a great point.
That's a win.
That's a great point.
If that's Michael Porter Jr. putting up that stat line, Jonas Valanciunas isn't on the bench. Bruce Brown isn't on the bench. Christian Brown doesn't have this contract extension. So
that's a great point.
So here's my thing. Is Porter... would Porter have made a difference? Maybe. I mean, he wasn't exactly stellar in his debut with the Nets the other night.
No, but he had 5 assists.
He had 5 assists, but he wasn't shooting the ball well. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you how this game would go if MPJ was in the lineup. But I just think that Cam Johnson is making $21 million less than him. And I get that he's putting up that stat line, but that makes your team deeper. And you just got to trust. You've got to trust that he's going to be able to improve. Yeah. And if it gets to Christmas and we're still talking about this, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
But for now, again, game 1, I mean, I got to just give him time to mesh with this unit.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like somebody else very similar in the Denver sport arena, Mika Rannon. You know, you got off of his contract, you brought in Marty Necas, who's, you know, honestly like Cam Johnson, and you open up the ability to get a lot of other players. The Avs and the Nuggets are more similar than you think in a lot of ways. Now, sure, Mika Rannon is better than MPJ in their respective sports, but it's a similar kind of deal. You know what I mean? But I did also want to touch on Christian Brown too. We had been talking about how he's going to fill in this KCP role that the Nuggets have been missing for the past year. You know, they didn't have that KCP. They didn't have that 3-and-D wing that Christian Brown was hoping to be. You know, you have this guy that can be this person who can slash, defend well, and then also shoot. We want Christian Brown to shoot the ball at a consistent high clip. Why is he only taking 1 3 in the debut game? There were multiple times where I saw him open for an opportunity, and instead of shooting it right away, his first thought is not to shoot. It's to pass and find a look to Nikola Jokic so that he can set up the offense. Christian Brown, you are making $25 million a year now. You run the offense too. He runs the offense just along with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and how Aaron Gordon can. And anybody on this team should be able to run the offense without the help of Nikola Jokic. And that was proven yesterday with the bench success. Christian Brown needs to do that too. This is one thing that, I mean, I've definitely been critical on the past several years, but other people too. He needs to get that mentality to shoot into his brain. It's just not there. And the defense was, you know, lackadaisical. Wasn't great. You know, we've seen better. And what I really was hoping to see was something very similar to the 2022 playoffs, where instead of having a shooting guard on Steph Curry or a point guard on Steph Curry, they moved Aaron Gordon onto Steph Curry and then messed around with the lineup and had somebody else on one of their bigs, because Draymond Green is a big, but he's not tall. Christian Brown could guard Draymond Green while Aaron Gordon steps in on Steph Curry. And that's something that we found to be successful at least a couple times in that series. Even in 2023, we saw it a few times happen there. So that's one thing that I was a bit shocked I didn't see this game, but they were clearly hoping that Christian Brown could be that guy, and it didn't prove to be very efficient for the Nuggets.
Yeah, and I hope it's not a confidence thing. Mm-hmm. You know, that's where it could get concerning is, hey, you have a guy who just is reluctant to shoot because he doesn't trust himself. That is way worse than having a guy that shoots 0 for 5, because then I don't know. It's just you need him to start shooting. You need him to build this rhythm, and you just need better from the guy you just paid a ton of money too. So
100%. Yeah. Well, the Nuggets have a chance to get it back tomorrow night at home for their home opener against the Phoenix Suns. That should be a great game. That should be a big win for the Nuggets. I mean, the Suns, they went to the championship a couple of years ago. They went to the finals a couple of years ago. And after that, I've just been kind of in a pit of despair. Poor Devin Booker. I like the guy. I like Devin Booker. And that's strange to see because, Suns fans do not like the Nuggets, especially after the whole Suns and four. Most Nuggets fans don't like the Suns, but whatever. They're like the little brother now. So tomorrow should be a big win for the Nuggets. I'll make sure to be watching that game. But today, to close it out on a Friday, we have my favorite segment of the week where we get to react to the poll that we put up on Monday. We put up a poll every single Monday, so make sure to check it out. Comment on it, like it. We do feature a few comments every week, but this week's poll was a controversial one. And it said, did the Broncos deserve to beat the Giants? 82% of people said yes. 18% of people said no. That was 2,528 votes on that one. Great number of votes there. And clearly most people believe that the Broncos did deserve to beat the Giants, while only a few said no. Trent, before we read some of these comments, I know what my answer is, but I'd like to hear what your answer is. Did the Broncos deserve to beat the Giants?
I say yes because of the grit that they showed in the fourth quarter, and some people will say no and be like, oh, Jackson Dart handed them the game with that interception, when the Broncos pass rush put him in a bad spot that caused him to throw it. And then Knicks played well in the fourth quarter. The offense played well. So I know that it was bad for 3 quarters, but it was just I think that fourth quarter performance makes me lean yes on this one.
Yeah. So I put up these polls. And for anybody who's upset at the polls, I'll take the arrow to the front. I create the questions along with some help, but this was a question that I thought was fun because I worded it very differently than did the Broncos win this game or did the Giants lose this game. I said specifically, did the Broncos deserve to beat the Giants? The answer is yes, because they did in my eyes. However, that isn't just a black and white statement. You can't just say yes. They deserve to beat them because they won. They deserve to beat them because they came back so great in the fourth quarter. But had they, messed up any more times in the fourth quarter, this game would have been a loss. A win is a win. A loss is or a win, of course, means yes, you deserved it. But that didn't feel like a game that the Broncos really deserved to win. They shot themselves in the foot so many times. Of course, Trent, you just mentioned it. Yeah, they put the pressure on Jackson Dart, causing him to make some of those mistakes. So yeah, they deserved it, but it didn't feel like they did at the time. And I want to read some of the comments that came in here too, because a lot of people were very opinionated on this. So at DTS_I said, it's not about deserving, it's about earning. And they earned that win. I love that because it's very, it's real. You earned it. Maybe deserving isn't the right term. You earned the win. You got it. And despite how you played in the first 3 quarters, it still came out with a win. I love that comment so much. At Anthony Bomer 6313, long comment here, said, the team that won usually deserves to. The refs didn't help them win. They actually tried to screw them. So only reason a team wouldn't deserve the win is if refs helped them out. Yeah, they looked real bad the first 3 quarters, but they played 4 quarters and only the score at the end matters. A win we will remember forever. I love that. Trent, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I kind of share the same thought process with that one. Is that fourth quarter was very memorable, and they put all the chips in the middle, and they played their brand of football for 15 minutes, and that's what gave them the win. And so, yeah, that's why I think they deserve it. So I agree with that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that comment a lot. And last one, Kevin E. Fan 4141. No, but they did. Congrats to Broncos Nation. I like that too. Keeping it honest. No, they didn't deserve to, but they did. And that's a great mindset too. You don't have to deserve every win as long as you get them. I really like that comment a lot. Now, those are the polls. That was the poll for this week. Love those so much. Next week should be a fun one. Usually we try to keep it about the Broncos, but depending on how this game goes on Sunday and depending how, the Buffs and the Nuggets play, maybe we'll see something else happen with the poll on Monday. But that'll be it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll be back with you guys on Monday. Of course, recapping a couple big games. We have the Avs, we have the Nuggets, we have the Buffs, and we have the Broncos all playing this weekend. It feels like Christmas in October. I'm so happy. Thank you guys so much for joining. We will see you all on Monday. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.